even get to cross.
What is up, guys? Thomas with Tab Gaming here, and welcome back to the channel. And if this is your first time checking out the channel and you enjoy the content, consider subscribing. It helps us out a lot. And with all that out of the way, we're going to be talking about Modern Warfare today, guys. So the reason I want to talk about this is because the Modern Warfare beta is next weekend, so it's a perfect time to talk about what we should be expecting from the game when it comes out as a full release. They've been really hyping this game up, which I'm excited about, which they normally do every year, but they really have to get the hype train going and full steam ahead with it being Modern Warfare and a reimagining of a beloved franchise. Now, the one thing that I think is interesting is something that's been pointed out by many other YouTubers, is how they're doing a rollout on their schedule instead of showing like they were single player and they're more story driven first and then hyping up the multiplayer. They're getting you familiar with all the multiplayer and getting you hyped about that, but also saving the single player, which I think why they're trying to really hype up the single player and make the anticipation really high for that is because Black Ops lost a big opportunity by going full steam with Blackout and not including a single player. They had the Specialist HQ, but it really wasn't a single player, especially for Black Ops, which is a very single player experience with 1 through 2. Then 3 it kind of fell off into a training simulator, and then they did away completely with 4, which upset many of the old players of the series, which we saw that with some of the responses from when they announced Blackout and they said no single player, which, as we all know, if they're going to go back to Modern Warfare, they have to have a campaign, because if they thought the response and backlash from the single player not being in Black Ops 4 would be bad, no single player in a Modern Warfare game I think would be a big turnoff, and they would really see a dip in their sales, just because there is a lot of people that buy the multiplayer, but for a Modern Warfare game there are just as many people buying it for a single player experience as a multiplayer experience, especially considering they're going to have Spec Ops, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But as far as the single player, my expectations is for them to keep the narrative of the Modern Warfare, but in a modern time like they have been talking about, and not really getting lazy with the storyline, because in recent years we've seen some of the campaigns that have been just shoehorned into the game just to say, hey, we have a campaign, but really there's nothing memorable about them. I think some of the good examples would be Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, and World War II, where I can only speak for Advanced and Infinite, but from what I heard with World War II, it's not memorable like the older Black Ops or Modern Warfare games. So I think they have a really high expectation for this game just because it had to deliver. With it having the Modern Warfare name to it and being the first potential game that will be memorable by Infinity Award in years, outside of Modern Warfare Remastered, which even had some backlash just because of the microtransactions, I think they really need to do this right and make it memorable so they can hopefully bring a bigger play base of newer players and returning players from 10 years ago that haven't touched a game since Modern Warfare 2 or Modern Warfare 3, which would be huge for Call of Duty just because the player base had been slowly declining, and we've seen some big dips when they hit the futuristic and advanced movement, and then a lot of people were disappointed, like I said earlier, about no campaign in the Call of Duty. Even though there are people that don't play it, there are those people that want that Call of Duty campaign, and if they really mess this up with Modern Warfare being attached, and especially since they're bringing back characters like Price, they're going to really feel it on the next game, just because a lot of people are going to be backing and supporting the game, and they need to deliver, or they're going to have really bad repercussions, especially for Infinity Ward, because Infinity Ward might capture that #1 spot that Treyarch has right now, and the only reason Treyarch has it, I believe, is because of zombies. If they wouldn't have had zombies, they would have just been all three on a level playing field as far as the rotation development team. but they really need to be careful with how they make this campaign. But if the early reaction from the media outlets and the test players is any indication, it should be great, just because it's sparking a little bit of controversy, plus it's stepping in the boundaries of modern time, so it's not a disconnect like the futuristic games have been in recent years. Now, moving on, let's look into Spec Ops, which they have not given a whole lot of information, but all the information that they have talked about and the rumors that have been floating around, we can talk a little bit about it. I think Spec Ops would be really interesting if it's a continuation of the storyline, or even if it had its own separate storyline, kind of like Zombies have in the Black Ops series, where it's something that the fans can get involved, especially considering, from what I've heard, it's going to be something that's continued down the road and added on to. It will be something that the players can really dive into and really get into the lore, which is something that really made a huge community for the Zombies community. Just having that lore connected to the gameplay, that once you find these little secrets hidden throughout the game mode, and having that community search and try to find more information that is hidden and not shown up front, and connecting all the dots and making that group effort to figure out all the little niche and thing that people would overlook if they're just playing through and not really focusing on the content that is there, and being like a community puzzle that people are adding their sense into and changing what we look at when we play it, and the little detail that the developers throw in. I think it could be a really good thing to bring the community together and form a whole new community out of Spec Ops. And the other thing with this game mode, just from a general standpoint of a single player person, is it would be more content, so you're not just paying $60 for a single player campaign and you're done. If it's an option just to play Spec Ops by yourself, which I imagine it would be, it would add more value to the players that aren't interested into multiplayer, which would be just a good business plan to include as many players into your ecosystem to allow it to be catered to more people. And something that would cater to even more people besides just being a single player experience would be couch co-op, which would be a throwback to the games 10 years ago when that was a normal thing that was even more normal than having a multiplayer co-op. But the thing to look at is they have a lot of opportunities with how they can approach this, and I'm kind of interested in how they're going to do it, because I believe they'll do a good job on it, especially if they have a strong campaign and they either have a separate kind of storyline or even a continuation. Either or would work, but as long as they put as much effort into all three modes and kind of balance it out and make quality content for all three game modes, they should be making a lot of more people happy than Black Ops 4 did, because everyone could tell that Black Ops 4 put all their chips into Blackout and kind of left all the other modes kind of dry until further on into the game's life cycle, and by that time a lot of the players for the modes already left and found something else to play because they felt like they weren't giving the same treatment as Blackout players. Now, the one thing that has been rumored with the mode is the same map that you'll be playing on will also be used for Battle Royale mode, which honestly won't bother me that much as long as they put a nice balance and don't throw all their chips like Black Ops 4 did and leave the other player out to dry, which if Alpha is any indication, they are really focusing on multiplayer, and we will see about campaign because they haven't really shown that much to the public, but from what they've shown YouTubers and gaming media, it looks like it's going to be really different for a Call of Duty campaign, just because a lot of the media, especially like IGN, wasn't praising it and some felt uncomfortable, which makes me intrigued because normally IGN is kind of like did the most evolutionary Call of Duty whenever a new one comes out, and just see them not be like fully supporting it kind of gives a sense of how they're trying to change the franchise with a more realistic approach, which might draw in a lot of the older player base from Modern Warfare, Modern Warfare 2, and Modern Warfare 3. And finally, last but not least, is not Call of Duty without a multiplayer experience, which we have already got a little bit of taste of from the alpha, but we'll get even more taste of next weekend if you're on PS4 with the beta, and coming later in the month for everyone else. With one thing I think is going to be very, very revolutionary is having the cross-platform, which is something we've been asking for a while, but I think because of Fortnite, we finally got it. Because Fortnite really pushed Sony, which didn't really want to open it up, and I think they really need to do it now just to test the water before the next generation, because it will be standardized the possibility of hardware coming out next year, and they really need to try to fine tune it before then. That way they'll have easier development time for the next generation, just to allow a lot less headache moving forward. And aside from that, I think the multiplayer will be pretty interesting just because they're introducing a lot of new things like Gunsmith and taking some things out like the minimap, which will change up the experience a lot. And who knows, maybe the minimap being gone will be for the better or for the worse, but they have to also look at different aspects of multiplayer, and hopefully they're not just doing it to be the different multiplayer, because we've seen what happened when they try to go too far off into the left field. They've kind of lost sight of what they're doing. But they have a lot more grounded gameplay, and going back to older style gameplay that's already familiar to everybody, so it shouldn't be that hard to develop for it and add in new things and take out some of the older things just to evolve the series. Because not too long ago it was considered that Call of Duty was a copy and paste game where they were basically just updating a game and not really creating anything new. But with this game, it will be a breath of fresh air just because they've been doing so many things that's been non-Call of Duty things to do, like with futuristic abilities with Black Ops 4 or advanced movement with Advanced Warfare, Infinite Warfare, and Black Ops 3. Now, from what I've played in the alpha, I enjoy the animations a lot, and I found out from an interview they did with one of the animation designers, they hand did those animations, they weren't motion captured, so it was a special kind of art going on when you see that, and how the gunplay react to those animations. And it's a minor detail, but it can change the experience of the game just because it's more immersive. And the guns just feel so nice when you're firing them. Like, they have a nice amount of recoil, which make them feel like actual guns and not pew shooters or laser beams. Plus, the map design really fits all kinds of playstyles. And from what they've shown so far, it looks like they really put a lot of love and care into these map designs to make them very tactical, where you can do a run and gun playstyle or a hang back and guarding playstyle, where you could have a lot more tactical movement that allow teams to think out their strategies and have different ways of approaching it instead of just having to be a one-man army on every team or just camping until you win. Now, don't get me wrong, there are minor details that they need to fix, because one example is with not having mini-maps, they have to fix that to where you can still see your teammates at least and have some kind of strategy, because it is going to hurt a lot of the tactical players, because that lets information that you are given throughout the game unless you get the kill streaks, which if you're an alright player, it's not going to really hurt you that much. But if you're having a hard time with the learning curve and adjusting to this new type of gameplay, it may be a struggling and discouraging experience for you. Another thing that they really need to work on, from what I've seen, is balancing the maps for the players, because they have the 20v20 mode, which looks pretty good, but the map really doesn't have a small enough range to where it's not traveling so far to find an enemy and having to look and spend most of your time looking instead of actually playing the game. If they're able to accommodate the amount of players to make that map feasible without damaging gameplay and still having steady frame rates without any lag and anything like that, then it should be alright. But once again, I hope they don't put all their resources into these few little modes like this in Gunfight and allow a lot of the more traditional modes to just be lacking or just be subpar, because they need to balance everything out within multiplayer just to keep the fan base happy, because the fan base is really vocal and they will eventually just say, no, we're not going to dig this if you're going to just dump it into a mode that any player may not even play. But not only that, but if it doesn't work right, especially on launch or soon after launch, it's going to turn a lot of players off. But a lot of this we'll have to wait and see in the beta, but I'm glad they are doing an alpha and a beta just so they can keep getting feedback before the game is finished, so they know what's working and what it's not. And that's opinion from their actual player base, which will be the ones that will mainly be playing it, which that information will help everybody just because it's going to allow some insight to developers to see what the gamers are rocking with and what they are not. But overall, from what I've seen, I think they're doing a good job because they're listening to the community and they're allowing a lot of YouTubers to give their opinion because they are speaking for us too, which is very nice because they're just allowing a lot of people that has a huge audience and is able to see what the community is saying and relay it as a middleman to the developers just to give them some insight that might go under their radar, which is really nice. And I love the Call of Duty community for this, especially when the developers are actually listening and allowing the community to form this game and create something really beautiful. And with all that, I appreciate you guys stopping by. If you guys enjoyed the video, consider giving it a like and comment down below what your guys' thoughts about the new Modern Warfare coming out. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.